係 Stephanie， 我係一個香港長大嘅運動教練，所以我依家好高興可以同班 HSBC Live 一齊合作，幫翻我哋改變自己個生活，特別係關節健康啦、營養、運動、壓力管理。咁呢個 HSBC Live 咧，我哋會推出一個 series 係叫 Live Well 嘅。我哋希望可以分享下啲 tips 啊，啲簡單運動你喺屋企自己可以做翻，同埋教翻你點樣可以養成健康的習慣。Okay, so for our first episode of the series, I want to introduce a theme. So what I like to do is I always have a theme that I think about before I teach. With the first one, I thought it was really fitting to go with winning your morning. So what does this mean? This is all about creating a healthy start to your day, and it sets the tone for the rest of your day. Okay, so we're going to start off with a morning mobility routine. I've only chosen 3 exercises, and you can choose what you want to do with it. The first one's going to be a cat-cow. I just want to teach you a little bit about spinal health. The second one is going to be a downward dog, where we start to lengthen a lot more, but we link it up with the spinal movements. And the third one is just a hip opener, which is called a Spider-Man or a lizard lunge. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to get started. So when you come into your mat, or even if you don't have a mat, that's fine. Just lay a towel down, or if you've got carpet, you can use whatever you have at home. Everything is accessible and everything should be available to you no matter where you are. And I think that's the main thing to remember, is that when you do exercise, you don't have to have fancy equipment for it. And I think some people get scared that I don't have the relevant equipment for it. It doesn't matter. Ultimately, you've got your body and you want to try and take care of it. So that's what I'm here to teach you more about. So when you do this right now, you're going to set your hands underneath your shoulders and your knees underneath your hips. I'm going to keep my toes tucked under because I like to stretch out my toes first thing in the morning rather than just relaxing them in this position. But if you feel like you've got tight ankles and this is a struggle for you, I'd actually say try and do it the opposite way. It's a mindset, and I really want you to try and think of whatever is uncomfortable for you. Often that is where we actually need to push further into in order to grow. So take your pick, but I'm going to start with my toes under. I'm going to start by drawing my chin into my chest, and then I'm going to slowly curl my tailbone under as I engage my stomach, drawing my belly button to my spine. The more I round, the more I come into spinal flexion, and in this position I engage through my stomach to hold. You should find a stretch come through the back of the neck, the crown of the head is falling heavy towards the floor, and if you pull hard enough with your belly drawing up to your spine, you should be able to squeeze your bum and find a stretch come through the lower back. Right here, I'm trying to teach you 100% into your flexion right now. As you take a deep breath in, hold. And as you exhale, you're going to start to tilt the tailbone up, move in segment by segment into spinal extension. As you drop your belly down, pull your shoulder blades away from the ears, start to draw your chin forward and look up. Now in this position, it's quite common for people to collapse into the joint. So I want you to make sure you're pressing through the floor, lengthening through your spine and holding. The stretch right now, if you pull hard enough, you should feel something come through the middle of your rib cage and feeling that nice front body stretch. And from here, we're gonna tuck the chin back under. And slowly moving through this for the first couple of reps, just so you can follow and understand why we are doing it this way, and hopefully understand that your spine is made up of individual joints here. I mention joint health a lot of the time because ultimately I find that when we work from the inside out, everything tends to fall into place later on rather than looking at the big picture and then trying to work inwards. So from here we tuck back under. We're going to start to move a little bit more fluidly. We're just moving up and down to begin with, and then I'll give you a slight variation from here. And then again, you come back out. When you're doing this at home, try and pair each movement with a breath, whether it's an inhale on the way in. So if I inhale now, I'm tucking my chin under. And as I exhale, I start to come back out into extension. If you flip the breathing around, that's not an issue. It's always so long as we've actually paired the breath with the movement, because the breath is the one thing that we can control. And when you start to think of it that way, you always know that you are in control of your life, and they're all just decisions and choices that we make. So I choose to wake up in the mornings and I choose to actually start my day off like this because I know I set the tone off for my day. And no matter what goes wrong or what might not go according to plan, at least I know I started my day off right. We're gonna go for 3 more. Coming back into your cow position. I still haven't figured out why this is called cow, but we're gonna go with it. And this one is your cat. Pretty self-explanatory. You do look like an angry cat. 2 more reps. Try to link the movement up. Starting to feel your spine move more fluidly, a little bit more like water. Coming back under. You keep your arms engaged, your hips engaged, your stomach engaged. And last one. And all the way out. We return back to a neutral spine. From here, I'm just gonna let myself find little creases that need a little bit more attention. So first thing in the mornings, I know after sleeping, I like to just move around and start to feel where my body needs more attention. So adding in lateral movements is something that I do, but if you find that you need more just flexion and extension, feel free to move there. The second exercise, now we're gonna move into our downward dog. I'm gonna keep my toes tucked under. I'm just gonna lift my knees off the ground one little bit, so about 1 to 2 inches off the ground. I engage my stomach instead of dropping my belly down or rounding. I wanna keep that nice flat spine. Then from there, I'm gonna start to draw my belly in like I'm going back into my cat shape to slowly extend the legs. This here is your downward facing dog. Now, I know that not everyone has got open hamstrings, in particular if you have got a desk-bound job, where a lot of the time what I see is tight hip flexors, weak glutes, and very, very tight hamstrings and lower back issues. So hopefully, the more you understand about your body, you'll start to realize that your hips are a major influencing part of your body here. So even though I'm in a downward facing dog here, yes, my legs are straight, but if you can't straighten it, that's fine. You keep your knees slightly bent and you just try and pull your hips up as high as it can go. Your hips, your hamstrings, your back, your shoulders, everything here is gonna get a nice stretch. We're gonna start by moving the hips side to side, just giving yourself more space through the sides of your body. Starting to feel the outsides of your armpits start to get a stretch, the outsides of your lower back. And then from there, we're gonna ground it back down. In your downward facing dog, the reason why I mentioned your hips just now, I want you to picture your tailbone. Right now, most of the time I see people in this position where their tailbone is scooping under and I start to put more weight through my shoulders. When really, I want to actually pull my bum back. Now watch my tailbone, I wanna pull my tailbone up higher. This brings my chest lower, my shoulders more open, and my head closer to the ground. From here, I'm gonna lift high up to my tiptoes. I'm gonna just slowly drop one heel down, stretching out my toes. Change to the other side. Just do this 2 or 3 times on each side. And then once you feel your toes have gotten a little bit more movement, waking them up. We're gonna bring a bit more energy into it. So I'm gonna stay on my tiptoes, and from here I'm gonna draw my belly into my spine and slowly link it all up to roll forward into a plank position. In your plank position, you make sure you're actually slightly hollowing versus dipping down, which is what, again, I see a lot of when people think they're in a straight line. But little do we realize we're actually collapsing into our lower back here. So start to lift your hips up first, suck your belly in, and then squeeze your bum to squeeze your tailbone under. And then from here, we're gonna slowly lift high onto the tiptoes to push all the way back into your downward facing dog. We're just gonna go through 5 of these, slowly moving through. You can start to see how you're moving into your spinal flexion and extension once again, except you're linking it up with your full body versus just keeping it into your spine. So we link up the shoulders, we link up the hips, we link up the hamstrings, the calves, the toes. When you start to see it like this, you can start seeing your whole body move as a whole versus looking at every individual part. So I like to flip in and out of teaching you about the basics of the individual joints, but then also apply it into how you can link it all up to see how your body actually works together as a whole. One important thing to remember here is that your head is an extension of your spine. And when you can remember that, you'll notice how heavy your head is. Your skull is actually incredibly heavy. And so a lot of the time, with postural changes that occur from working at desk jobs and working with technology, most people actually struggle to hold their head up. So they'll be here because the neck muscles are actually quite weak. So we want to try and lift it up. So whenever you come into your plank, you want to look at the top of your mat versus at your hands. From here, we're going to come back into one last one. Coming back into your downward facing dog and hold. I'm going to bring the left leg into the middle now. I'm going to walk my right foot up just to hold a one-legged dog to keep pushing my hips through and isolate my left hamstring stretching out here. I'm going to gently step my right foot forward. I'm going to keep it as high as I can to open my hips now. So the third exercise right now is a hip opener. And with the hip opener, it's all about trying to get my leg up as high as possible in order to sink my back hip down. Then from here, I'm just going to place my hand onto my thigh, rotate up a little bit more, opening up my lower back, and then come back down. I'm going to teach you a gentler version today, so we're actually just going to move one side only and then to the other side. But if you want to make your routine a little bit more dynamic, you always have the option to just keep changing, so you add more movement and lift the heart rate up. So as I'm here, I'm just going to open, come back down. As I come in, one little trick I like to do to open my shoulder is I keep my elbow high and I drop my shoulder down, then I open again. Back down. Open again. I'm gonna go for one more. Back down. And open again. Once I feel my right side body open up, my left hip is opened up, I'm gonna place my hand back down. I'm gonna return back to a three-legged dog. As I come into my three-legged dog, I replace my foot and I change to the other side. So I come back up, ground the heel down, and I'm gonna gently step the foot up. Now I know it's not always so graceful the first time you try it. I practice it every day, which is why I've somehow tried to master it. But when you struggle to bring it up, that's okay. You always have the option to come here, maybe put it as high as you can first. You can drop your knee down and then move this forward. Or if you know you want to challenge yourself further, from this position, you think of lifting through the belly button. This here is actually the trick to lift your knee high. Draw your knee higher towards your armpit rather than your wrist, otherwise you'll notice you've got no space to work with. So as I'm here, I lift up and then I quietly put my foot down. So once again, I'm going to turn into my left hand side, bring my left hand onto my leg and rotate. For me, I always love this stretch first thing in the morning because my spine loves it. It starts to crack and pop in areas that I know just need more opening. One big thing to remember when you're doing any sort of exercise is paying attention to the signals that it's giving you. I always tell people discomfort is okay. Pain in terms of sharp pain is not. But learning to recognize the differences between pain and discomfort is something that a lot of people actually struggle with. So how we recognize that, you just take mental notes. And this is how I always say that this is my form of movement meditation, because it's just a way of me taking note of what my body is feeling, writing down these sensations, and then just keeping them, using them for future use. So then from here, that brings us to the end of the 3 exercises. And I always like to bring it to a close by coming forward to drop my knees on the ground. I open my knees wide, toes together, and then I just sit and relax for a second. And I breathe for 10 breaths. As I mentioned earlier, the breathing is really important. The breath is the one thing that I know I can control. And without the breath, there is no life. Everything that I do has come from, I'm not really sure where, to be honest. I've always grown up playing sport, but I've also had to face my fair share of rejections, failures, and all of the above, hardships. How I managed to get through it has ultimately just been the way that I see things. And I like to see things as the glass is always half full versus half empty. I think resilience is a word that has a lot of meaning behind it, but sometimes people don't fully understand what it means. Obviously, dictionaries have clear definitions, but ultimately I like to see it as how you overcome hardship, how you face struggles in real life, facing adversity, and actually how you choose to overcome it, learning from your lessons versus blaming it and becoming the victim in your life. Starting to see things in a different light and also starting to see that there's always a different way, no matter how cornered you feel. That's just one way that I've started to see things from a young age. I'm not entirely sure how, but I realized that there's no point trying to do things for other people all the time. The most important thing you can do is do it for yourself. And I think that is what's so empowering about taking charge of your own body, because nobody else has access to that but you. Nobody else can control it but you. And ultimately, you are the one who can choose to make it stronger, make it more mobile, and keep it youthful. Or you could choose to do the latter as well and just pay the price later down the line. So from here, we're going to slow our breathing down. I'm going to teach you a breathing technique. It's called box breathing. This is all about learning to control the breath. We're going to inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. In. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. As you continue this breathing pattern, you start to feel your body relax. You start to feel your heart rate slow down, your breath slow down, your mind slow down. You allow yourself to be quiet in the mind. You allow yourself to let go of your daily to-do list just for a second. And you allow yourself to just be present in the moment. Appreciate what's around you. And also express some gratitude for taking time out of your day to actually take care of yourself. Not just physically, but mentally, to be able to switch off. Taking one more deep breath here. And then one more deep breath out. And then from there, slowly wiggling the fingers, wiggling your toes, gently, gently, rolling yourself back up. And starting off the rest of your day with a positive tone. 咁多謝大家參與今個星期個 HSBC Live Well Series， 希望下次都可以見翻你哋。下一集呢，其實我哋會講翻頸痛、膊頭痛，教翻多啲 exercise，你可以喺屋企康復自己嗰啲問題咯。OK， 下次見啦！